Hello, my name is Stefan Kartman. Welcome to my studio. Today, I'd like to talk about an exercise that I've entitled Intonation Meditation. This is on page 28 of my daily practice regimen called An Artist's Guide to Cello Technique. In this exercise, I'm trying to achieve balance in the hand in two finger combinations. The exercise itself sounds a little bit like bagpipes. So the idea of this exercise is being able to quickly pass from one finger to another and have balance on those two fingers and be able, even though it's a quick pace between them, to find a good intonation between half steps, whole steps, minor thirds, and major thirds within the hand. The exercise itself is dependent on your ability to stay loose in the hand as you move from one position to the other and as you do different finger combinations. So let's talk a little bit about these finger combinations. One of the reasons why I started doing this exercise is that I found that though I could force my hand to play in tune, keeping it in one posture, the rigidity of the hand was forcing me to make uncomfortable stretches between fingers for some intervals and having the hand be completely comfortable on others. And I started to think, why is that so? And then I realized that actually trying to force your hand to stay at the same angle on the instrument was stupid. My fingers are all different lengths. While there is a certain feeling of stability in keeping the hand at precisely the same angle, it makes you tight, and that creates its own set of problems. The tightness itself is the enemy, and I found myself either choosing not to vibrate on a combination that was more awkward to get it in tune, or vibrating and then having it not be as good an intonation as I would like to hear. Okay, so what are these various angles of the hand? And keep in mind that this is small changes, very small changes. I'm not expecting anyone to do these radical things to alter their position in such a way that would give them a feeling of, I don't know where I am on the instrument. No, these are small things to produce comfort in the hand and hopefully give your hand a little bit more of a loose feeling. So the idea here is that when you're on the third and fourth finger, that combination, that's kind of our base. It's ground zero. It's the place where we're comfortable. So between your fourth and your third finger, which is a little longer than the fourth, right, easily rests on the D string, and your fourth finger, without having too much strain, rests on the A string at a half step. That particular combination, if you can see on the other camera, leaves both fingers at kind of a nice, comfortable amount of bend. They're not straining to bend like this, they're not hooked, and neither is the fourth finger having to reach in an uncomfortable manner and pull away from the third finger like this. It's an uncomfortable posture, and this is a more neutral posture, something that feels a little more natural to the hand. So if I take this very same posture and put it on the instrument, without changing anything at all, what do you know? There's a half step that feels pretty comfortable to play, and it's more or less in tune, and I feel loose enough on it that I can make a nice vibrato. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the other combinations and why they may be different. Well, if I'm to put my second finger down right now and have that same feeling of length to it, my second finger is not really resting on the D string at all. It's actually kind of in between the D string and the A string. Okay, sorry, in between the D string and the G string, because it's a longer finger. Now, if I want that finger not to have to reach in and curl like this, which is a little bit of a strain, it's not a big deal. Of course, we do it all the time. But why wouldn't I want it to be in this relaxed posture? Okay, well, of course, I don't have to hold it like this with a bend to it. I can actually take my hand and just slightly change the angle. And that makes the distance between here and here just big enough that my second finger can have this nice loose curve to it that wasn't there before. All right, so here's what things look like. And if I go to my first finger, it's a very similar feeling. And if I go to the extended posture, I can actually come forward a little bit with the elbow, and that'll make that one feel comfortable too. But of course, that's really the biggest distance that we have to extend is first position or half position, right? Okay, so those are the different postures. Now, the postures themselves, you can see mostly changes when it comes to 2 and 3. To 3 and 4. When you play 2 and 3, you'll find that you'll have a similar feeling that the hand is better in posture, slightly tilted back. That's the position that most people are capable and comfortable in, right? First finger, really not that much of a difference. If I was to extend, I don't have to do that extension very often in the repertoire. Okay. All right, so those are the positions. Now let's talk a little bit about the postures of the hand. Let's talk a little bit about the change of position and why that's going to matter to us. So if I keep this same posture, rather this same interval combination, and I move from one position to another, I'm going to keep absolutely the same angle of the hand. And it feels exactly like a half-step shift, like a half-step shift should feel. I just move my arm forward, a half step, no fuss, no muss, pretty easily accomplished, right? If on the other hand, I'm changing from that combination of 3 and 4 to a combination of 2 and 4, and I do a little bit this rotating out feeling, then when I make my shift and I do that move, it actually feels like I'm not shifting quite as far, because part of the shift or part of the move from one half step to the next is included in that slight rotation. So if you concentrate on this part of my arm, where my wrist is, watch as I go from 3 and 4 to 3 and 4, and then watch as I go from 3 and 4 to 4 and 2 on the way back. Did you see how there wasn't as much of a move back and forth, up and down the string length? Well, of course, once you open that Pandora's box, then you have all of these slightly different angles that you can do while you're doing your moves. It's kind of like those programs like Microsoft Word that are able to do a lot of things, but because there are so many options, it's a little bit confusing for people, and we can get stuck and not know how to use all of those options. Well, that happens to me all the time with computer programs, and fortunately, cello is, in a way, a lot more simple than that. It's just a few things that we have to remember, or we should think of them as tendencies, not as absolutes, right? Because it's certainly possible to play in tune without doing any of these moves. I'm simply trying to make it a little bit more comfortable, so when it comes to playing something really fast, we can do it without having to work the spacing on the fingers and make it have success for us. I'm basically trying to make it possible to not have to practice quite as much, not to beat our heads against the wall. Okay, so if I move from position to position and I'm going and I'm changing my combination, I have the potential for less of a move on the half step, because part of the move again is encompassed in that turn of the hand. Well, that means of course that the opposite is totally possible, right? So if I'm up here and I'm on a 4 and 2 combination and I want to go to this, well, now I'm actually having to move larger. I'm actually having to move farther with my arm than I did if I just went from. So you see how my arm actually had to move a little bit farther because the combination was a turn in the wrong direction, I guess I want to say. So let's see what these things look like if I just play them. Okay, and that's my largest extension. Every once in a while I'll take the thumb off for that, but I quickly get it back on once I find comfort on one or another finger. Okay, there's that one. As we go into other combinations, So here in this case, again, I'm using the same angle because 2 and 3 feel about the same as 3 and 4 did, right? It's of course a larger move. Now I'm moving my whole hand forward a whole step instead of the half step that I did a moment ago. You see how that combination works? And so each one of those is a different amount of move forward. And again, as we go to different fingering combinations, it'll feel a little bit different depending on which angle I'm playing my hand with. Keep in mind that everybody's hand has got different proportions of the fingers slightly. And when one goes from one position to another, if one has a very long fourth finger, this feeling of having the hand bent back for it is not going to be as drastic. All right, so the exercise itself, actually the goal of it is to get comfortable with 2 finger combinations. So in addition to doing the double stop spacing, which I would call the discovery time, that's when you want to discover how to get those fingers down with equal pressure on the drop and have the right angle for that to feel comfortable with the spacing. After that, we start to work the combinations of fingers. I'm here, I'm still looking for the space of the shift. In essence, I'm just trying to warm up that 3 and 4 combination, a half step forward of first position. Okay, after that, the next thing that I do is I go into all of these combinations, 4-3, 4-2, 4-1, for extension 1, and then I'll work these with an accented neighbor tone. And notice how I'm trying to vibrate immediately after that quick accented neighbor tone. Well, that vibrato at the beginning of the note is the thing that tells me whether I found my hand in a loose posture when I get there, because if it's not loose, you're going to have a little delay in the vibrato, or perhaps be tight enough that you can't do it at all. All right, I'm going to do this exercise a little bit because I haven't practiced it today and it feels good to do it. So I hope you'll join me. I'm going to put this online also as a play along so that you can just join me. But of course, this exercise is best if you just do it by yourself and listen carefully for your intonation. But in the interest of camaraderie, if you want to play along with my sample, then by all means do it. I'm going to put the metronome on 64 for now and give it a try.